You're welcome. Okay, and so Zara, how are you? Welcome. Thank you for coming. Are you stationary tonight or are you
Thank you.
traveling?
I'll be home in 15 minutes, Lance.
All right, well, we're going to go and talk about the explanations of the medicine Buddha of the practice. So,
Are we going to do a practice, or are we talking about concepts tonight?
concepts. And then
Very cool.
we'll do a little bit of chanting, but basically we're going to be explaining the practice to anyone who's not received it or to anyone who needs it to be refreshed. Okay, so we begin by doing our opening prayers. So we'll use the 101 prayers this evening. So we start with the altruistic motivation. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Dagla dang wa je pe dra no pa je pe geg. Tar pa dang tam she ken pe bar du jo par je pa tam she ki so je pe. Manam ka dam yam pe sem chen tam she de wa dang den. Dug now dong drell nor du la na me pa yang dag pa zog pe zhang zhu bren po she to pa ja. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Deshe du sang ma ge gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Ma she bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Du de ring ne song te ni ma sang ta sam gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Next is the long refuge prayer. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Idams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Transcend sawa dangur par je pe pal den lama dam pa nam la kab su chio. Yedam kil gorgi la sok nam la kab su chio. Sange chom den de nam la kab su chio. Dam pe cho nam la kab su chio. Pape ge du nam la kyab su chi o. Pa wo ka jo cho kyong song me song yes she gi chang dang dem pa nam la kyab su chi o. Next is taking the Bodhisattva vow. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Shangju Ningpo Chi Bar Sangye Namla Kyabsu Chi Chodang Shangshub Senpai Soklang Deshin Kyabsu Chi Jitar Nongi Deshegi Shangshub Tugni Ke Padan Shangshub Senpai La Pala De Dag Rimshin E Patar De Shin Dro La Pendandu Shangshub Samni Ke Gishing De Shin Du Ni La Pala Rempa Shindu La Paji O. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye Chodang So Gedun. I'm sorry, started over. Sangye Chodang So Ki Chonam La Shangju Bardu Dagni Kapsu Chi Dagi Jin So Ki Pe Sonamgi Drola Penshir Sangye Jupasho. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yam pesam chantam she dewa dang dewe gudang dampar jorchi. Dugnal dang dunal gi gudang drawa jorchi. Dugnal me pe dewa dang mi drawa jorchi. Ne ring chak dang ni dang drawe tang namla ne pa jorchi. Okay, thank you. Those are our opening prayers for tonight. Does anybody have any questions or comments about anything that we've been talking about, the Medicine Buddha practice, or any of the other topics we've discussed in the past number of weeks? Okay, good. So, Gavin, have you and Karina gone through the explanation of the Medicine Buddha?
Yeah, I once asked if Medicine Buddha was like a real figure, but you had explained to me that Medicine Buddha is like an imaginative creation deity
Well, it's a
of,
meditational deity, yes.
yeah. And so that's what I understand so
Okay.
far,
All right.
you
Well,
know.
okay. Very good. We're going to go through a little bit more detail then. Okay.
All right.
So, to introduce us, there are historical Buddhas. There are Buddhas who were human beings, like Shakyamuni Buddha was a historical being, and then so he manifested in many forms or many ways with the activities of being the Buddha are many, and they all have different names. We talk about that, it's like our true nature, our Buddha nature is like a diamond. The diamond is made of bodhicitta, and that the way that the bodhicitta radiates its light is through all the different aspects of the diamond, all the different facets of the diamond. So that bodhicitta is manifesting through those different facets. And as it does it, it's called its activities, the different activities of the Buddha. So this is the Buddha nature. So we can be medicine Buddha, we can be the Bodhisattva of compassion, we can be the Bodhisattva of wisdom, we can be the Buddha of purification, we can be the Buddha of fearlessness. It's all within us. And it's a matter of being introduced to these, to recognize these within ourselves, and then learn how it is that these are practiced, learn how these are actuated. And so that's what we are learning. And so these are called meditational deities, that we perfect our realization with these deities through the meditation. In other words, it's not just an intellectual association, but it is an actual transformation through the heart center, through our mind, through our big mind, not the little mind, but the big mind. Then the little mind kind of catches up with the big mind, and then then the obstructions that the little mind creates are blown away or overcome. So another analogy of the way of looking at this is that we're all sleeping, and that we have these moments of being awakened. And these moments of being awakened are when we see the clarity, when we see the reality, when we see this Buddha nature, this true nature that we have within ourselves. So that's like the enlightenment, and it comes in short bursts. It may come at a time where it's long lasting, and it stays with you because you have developed these short bursts, these short experiences with that in such a way that you then are able to stabilize that Buddha awareness, that Buddha awakening. So the word Buddha is a Sanskrit word that means awakened one. So it's awakened to all the possibilities, to all the things, to be able to realize phenomena as phenomena, and that all these things that we see, hear, feel, and touch, etc., everything within our body, everything our mind, is all phenomena, is all temporary. However, there is what we say a connection, a heart connection, that is through our heart center. And that is approached through the meditation. To get to the meditation, we go through a contemplation. We go through an intelligent intellectual investigation. We contemplate the meanings of that, but then it comes to a point of exhaustion where we can't think about it anymore. We've just, it's just everything. And then when we just quiet the mind at that point, because there's nothing more to think about, then we have a meditative experience. And the meditative experience is something that we don't realize until after we've come out of it, till we come back into our contemplative mind. And in that meditative experience, we can see it through the lens, if you will. We can see it as being Medicine Buddha, or being Buddha Tara, or being Bodhisattva Manjushri, or Bodhisattva Shenrezig. We can see it as being one of those holy beings, those holy enlightened beings. So these practices that we're learning, these practices that we're doing like this, is a means for us to be able to recognize that meditation mind and the way that it actualizes. So we go over this many times. I don't expect that anybody's going to understand that right away, but it's leading you to engage in these practices so that you can have the experience. Then you're tying the teachings on what this means, what the meaning is, together with the experience, and then that's very powerful. That's very powerful when the two things come together like that. So we say that we are sleeping. We say that we wake up to like lift the veils from our eyes, but it's from our heart, from our awareness, to lift the veils from our awareness that obstruct our true nature, which is the true nature of our being the Buddha. And then we then ultimately have glimpses of that become more stable, and then we can maintain our Buddha nature. We can live an enlightened life. Okay. So this practice of Medicine Buddha, this is the practice for healing. That all of us are sick. We might be we're asleep, but we're also sick. So we say sick in terms of there might be some physical illness, but there also might be some kind of a emotional illness, some kind of confusion in our lives, and so on. And so for us to be able to cure that illness, Medicine Buddha, to be able to be Medicine Buddha to cure it, we need to know the causes of that illness, what the illnesses are, and then apply the proper antidotes to them. So this is what Medicine Buddha encapsulates. Any questions or comments? Please don't hesitate to just turn on your microphone and come in. Yes, Ben.
Lance, I have one. I remember at Buddhism 101, very early on, there was a fellow in the group who's been a lot longer on the Dharma path than I have. And we were talking about a particular bodhisattva, and I said, well, is it real or is it simply in my mind? And he said, everything's in your mind. So it reminds me a little bit of that. And the other thing is that, ultimately, all is temporary, and correct me if I'm wrong, but nothing really exists. Perhaps I'm overstating that, but I believe that's part of Buddhism, that nothing really ultimately real.
Phenomenal existence,
yes,
is temporary.
Yes.
So all this is temporary. Our bodies are temporary. All that is temporary. Yes.
Thank you.
So, but it exists. But it does exist, although temporarily. So we're here, we're real, but for, 60, 70, 80, 100 years, however long we get to live, we're real. But after that, but everything in our life becomes like a dream. If you think about what you were doing at 5 o'clock tonight, this past evening, it's like a dream to you.
It is. Yeah.
So we see that our life is like a dream. And we see that the things that are keeping us from our true nature is our afflictive emotions, and that's like an illness. So the Dharma is the medicine that allows us to overcome that illness of those emotions. So you see how it comes together.
Thank you.
Okay. So I see that you got your Medicine Buddha up there. Very good. Okay. All right, so we start with the refuge prayer. We're taking refuge in the Medicine Buddha. So it says, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So that's the body, the speech, and the mind. The Dharma is the speech, and the Sangha is the body of the Buddha, and the Buddha is the mind of the Buddha. And we're talking about the big mind, not the little mind, the big mind, the heart mind. So we take refuge respectfully through our three doors. So our three doors is the forehead, the chakra at the forehead, at the crown, actually, the crown of the head, the throat, there's a chakra at the throat, and there is a chakra at the heart. So through these three doors, we're taking refuge with our body, speech, and mind. We're taking refuge. And I cultivate my mind. I'm cultivating this mind to recognize this mind, to be able to remove the veils, to be able to remove the obscurations that are blocking this mind. So I cultivate the mind to establish in the unsurpassed enlightenment that we have this enlightenment, we have this ability within ourselves, we have all the potential for this. And so when we reach this, it's unsurpassed. There's nothing beyond this enlightenment, from this point of view. So then we say, and that we want to establish in the unsurpassed enlightenment all suffering beings who have been our mothers. So we're doing this not just for ourselves, we're doing it for all other sentient beings, human beings, animals, insects, all beings. We're doing it for all beings that they may heal themselves of the suffering that they're going through. And by doing that, it helps us to overcome our suffering. We're not doing this selfishly, we're doing it for the benefit of others. So now we visualize the Buddha. So let me put this screen share up real quick, please. And you got it in your books, I know. So here is a picture of the medicine Buddha, and you can see that he has he's got a blue body, and he's in his left hand he's carrying a mendicant's monk's bowl that he collects alms in, and inside of this bowl is the Dharma elixir. The elixir is like a medicine. So the Dharma is the elixir that cures many, many people's illnesses. And whether it's physical or intellectual, emotional illnesses. Sometimes our emotional illnesses cause us to feel like we have physical pain, psychosomatic illnesses, and so on like that. So this Dharma elixir will help those situations, will help that. In his right hand, he's carrying the stem of a tree, and this is called the Myrobalan tree. And this tree is the tree of medicine that when we need something stronger, when we have a real bad illness, when we have the flu or we have some kind of a bacterial infection or something like that, and we need medicine to help cure us. When we've injured ourselves and we've broken a bone or something like that, we need surgery or something like that. It requires strong medicine to quiet down the pain in our body while the body is healing and so on. So this comes out, the wisdom of this comes from the Dharma wisdom of understanding how this works, how they work together and so on. So the Buddha represents that he has both of these medicines within his grasp, within his ability, and we are learning to use that ourselves. So he's sitting on a lotus pedestal. This is a lotus pedestal, which means purity. And he's sitting on a white disc, which is the moon disc, which is the disc of compassion, the cooling of compassion. And underneath of this is a yellow disc, which is the sun disc. And the sun disc is wisdom. And it's hot. And the moon disc is cool. So the hot wisdom is being cooled by the moon, by this moon disk. So Medicine Buddha is a peaceful deity. So he is sitting on the compassion white moon disk to show his compassion. Okay. So we come back. So if you look on page 3 in your book, you can see there's another image there of Medicine Buddha that has all those elements that we just saw. His color is a lapis lazuli blue. It's a very beautiful blue. It's kind of a luminescent blue, and it's dark. It's not maybe as dark as navy blue, but it's very beautiful. It's like a cobalt blue. I've heard it expressed that way. So it has healing properties, and they will even grind up the lapis lazuli and use it in some of the medicine that is being symbolized by that medicine tree that he's holding in his right hand. So they will use other minerals and other metals from time to time when it's necessary to help cure people. They will use herbs and they will use plants and things like that, but they will also use these elements, these minerals and metals and so on like that. Okay, so now comes this visualization part from the book. It says, in front and above myself is a lion throne on which rests a lotus sun and moon disk seat, on which sits the medicine Buddha. So we visualize, and you might have a card. Maybe I sent you a card. You might have a card, or you can take this book and you can put the book up in front of yourself. So it's up above your head just a little bit and in front of you. And you can visualize Medicine Buddha, who is sitting on the lotus cushion, sitting on a lion throne. So the lion throne, we don't see the lion here, but there's a lion underneath. And on which rests the lotus, and then the sun disk and the moon disk. So I spoke about those two things. And the Medicine Buddha sits on this, who's blue in color like the Veladora jewel. Veladora jewel is the name of lapis lazuli. Lapis lazuli in Sanskrit is called Veladora. So that's the meaning of Veladora, is lapis lazuli. So he's blue in color like the Veladora jewel. In his right hand, he holds the medicine tree, and in his left, a bowl filled with nectar. And the nectar is the Dharma elixir, the Dharma nectar. So the next line is, in Nirmanakaya form, he radiates the light of the major and minor marks. So the Nirmanakaya is the emanation body of the Buddha. When we talk about the Buddha has 3 bodies. We've talked about this as a human being, and what we are trying to do is to recognize our 3 bodies as the same as the Buddha. So the Buddha is the mind of the Buddha, and that's called the Dharmakaya. Then the second is the intellect, the speech of the Buddha, and that's called the Sambhogakaya. And then the third one is the emanation body, and that is the manifest physical body of the mind of the Buddha, along with the speech of the Buddha being manifest in a form. That's the Nirmanakaya. So Medicine Buddha was Shakyamuni Buddha teaching this and showing how to heal people and so on like that. So in that way, he was becoming the physical aspect of the Medicine Buddha. So that's the Nirmanakaya form. That's what we call Nirmanakaya. We talk a lot more about this later on in other sessions, but understand that that is the emanation body of the Buddha. He radiates light of the major and minor marks. So these are the physical aspects of the Buddha. So you can read them. They're in the Jewel Ornament of Liberation. I can tell you what pages you can look at if you're interested in going to that. Excuse me 1 second. Doesn't it figure when I'm looking for something, I can't find it? Well, I'll have to get back to you on that rather than spending all this time looking for the page numbers in there. But I will write it in a chat in the WhatsApp and let you know what that is if you want to read that. Okay, so in the Manakaya form, he radiates the light of the major and minor marks. So there's 32 major marks and there's 80 minor marks, we say. So those are all enumerated in the Jewel Ornamental Liberation book. He is surrounded by the lamas, yidams, and the seven sugatas with as many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as the number of dust particles in the sunlight. So that's countless beings are all surrounding Medicine Buddha. So the lamas are the teachers, are the gurus, are the teachers. The yidams are the meditational deities that are the ones who are helping us, the ones that we are learning about to be our personal yidam. Yes, Kate.
So if we have well-developed visualization skills, then we might be visualizing just thousands and thousands of Buddhas in front of us when we do this, right?
Good.
Just, I mean, just, like
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah, just to everything in the air, is all Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
All the dust particles, that we can't see. Sometimes when you see the light shining, in the daytime, you can see all those dust particles. Well, imagine that those are all Buddhas and so on. So, yes, so the truth of all this is all around us, and we're learning to recognize it. So we say that this Buddha nature is all around us, and we could say, oh, it's millions, gazillions of all these Buddhas, but we could also look at it as we're in the body of one Buddha.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's, whichever way you want to look at it, it's all true.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Food for thought. Thank you.
Because the idea of what we're conceptualizing, that conception itself is relative, is temporary, is conceptual. And that is part of what it's a figment of our mind.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one that we can communicate with. It's one that we can help each other. We can discuss this with. Without the ability to be able to do that would not be good. But at the same time, the Buddha, this awakened realization, is beyond even the mind. So we have to go ahead.
I know you've talked in the past about not necessarily getting hung up too much on details of maybe where we're envisioning all these Buddhas. So that's the same thing going on here. It's however many works for us.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So to know that we're in the midst of all this, Buddha nature, and we're coming to recognize it. That's the point. And the seven sugatas are the, if you turn to page in your book, if you turn to page 5, you see there's actually 8, 9, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that one on top of another. So these are Buddhas, these are medicine Buddhas that represent a particular aspect of the Buddha, a particular actualization of the Buddha. So we're going to come to that in another couple minutes, and I will tell you what each one of those are. But that's what the Sugatas are. The Sugatas are the well-gone Buddhas. Buddhas are human beings who have realized this and have become perfected human beings, become perfected enlightened beings. So we're, at the beginning stage of this, to put ourselves on the path to be able to purify ourselves to get us to be the Buddha. that we all have that potential within us. So these 7 Sugatas are those that have succeeded, that have become Buddha, and represent these particular activities that we're going to get to in a couple of minutes. And then the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas is a number of dust particles. So the Buddhas are the enlightened ones. There's many, many enlightened ones. The Bodhisattvas are wholly enlightened beings who are on the path to become Buddha. So as a human being, we first become a beginner, then we become a practitioner, then we become a yogi or a yogini. A yogi is a male and a yogini is a female that is in union, that has a great deal of experience with the enlightened path. They're in union with it. And then they become a bodhisattva, a holy enlightened being, that they have high levels of bodhicitta, high levels of awareness, but they haven't been fully perfected yet. They haven't been fully Buddha, but they're on the path to do that. They remain a bodhisattva in order to help the ordinary beings, to help those who are the practitioners, to help those who are the yogis and yoginis, to help beings who don't even know anything about this, to help all beings. The bodhisattvas remain bodhisattvas. They hold off on their enlightenment so that they can help other beings. So now the light radiates from all those beings from their 3 special places, inviting the wisdom beings who dissolve into the samaya beings. So the light from the 3 special places. So the 3 special places are the body, speech, and mind. The body, the speech, and the mind, right? So, and so light is coming. So there's white light coming from the crown. There's red light coming from the throat, and there's blue light coming from the heart centers, these 3 special places. So, this light is radiating and inviting all the wisdom beings. So all the wisdom beings are all these enlightened beings, all these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and so on, all the lamas, the yidams, all these beings is a broad term to say all these wisdom beings who dissolve into the samaya beings. The samaya beings, samaya means the vow taker, taking a vow, V-O-W, making a promise and holding the promise to be able to develop one-pointed mindfulness of what all this is. So this is the samaya being, the one who is developing this whole experience. That's the samaya being. So there's lots of beings, there's lots of human beings who could be, they have the potential to do this, they have the Buddha nature within themselves, but they don't realize the vow. They don't take the vow. They're not willing to make the commitment. They don't know that it exists. They don't know how to do it. So those of us who can do that, we regard as being precious human beings. So we're going to talk about that this Monday. But nevertheless, samaya beings are those who want to have this experience. So it says that they are the embodiment of wisdom, compassion, power, and activities to dispel the sicknesses of all sentient beings. So those are the lamas, yidams, 7 sugatas, the Buddhas, and bodhisattvas. They are the embodiment of the wisdom, compassion, power, and activities to dispel the sicknesses of all sentient beings. So they, going back to this analogy here of the diamond, this is all of them within this diamond, and then it's like light coming out, and then we ultimately become the diamond, and we become all those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all those enlightened beings. Any questions? Any doubts? Doubts are healthy. Confusion is good. That's how we overcome things. Okay. So now we go to page 4, and now we're going to talk about the 7 Sugatas. So 4 and 5. So 5, you see the image of the Buddhas there. So we recite this visualization. It says the 7 Sugatas. The healing master of lapis lazuli radiance is sitting on the crown of my head. So the medicine Buddha is the healing master of lapis lazuli radiance. So the lapis lazuli, again, is that medicine, the Veadora jewel. That's the color of his body. And he's sitting on my head. I visualize that he's on my head. Okay. And then the next stanza says, on the crown of the healing master of lapis lazuli radiance is the Tathagata, king of clear knowing, whose body is red in color. His right hand is in the mudra of supreme giving, and his left is in the meditative equipoise. So the healing master of lapis lazuli radiance, he is the Buddha of healing our illnesses. So now on his crown is the king of clear knowing, who is a Buddha, but he is the king of clear knowing. And the Tathagata means I thus gone one who has become a Buddha. So he's a king who has become a Buddha, not literally, but figuratively. So his body is red, and in his right hand, he's holding the mudra. In his right hand, his mudra is up like this. This is the giving mudra. This is generosity. So his right hand is at his right knee. And I know in that illustration there, it's hard to see, but his right hand is at his right knee, and he's giving generosity. He's giving he's giving the teachings. He's giving the medicine. He's giving his knowledge. He's giving his healing abilities. He's offering that. This is through his knowledge, the king of clear knowing. He knows what has to be done. And his left hand is in the meditative position. So his left hand is at the navel, 4 inches below the navel, and his left hand is up like this, and he's holding the bowl full of Dharma elixir. The Dharma elixir. He's holding that. So what this means is he's in meditation. That it is through the meditation that we become healed. So whether it's emotional illness, whether it's physical illness, it's through the meditation, through the power of the transformation of that we are able to overcome, that we are able to heal ourselves in a complete way. So some people, can get sick. They can catch a cold or something like that, and it seems to last for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And other people get it for a couple, 3 days, and it's over. Now, I can't say that in every case that one person's more spiritual than the other person or something like that, but it does work something like that. That when the spirit is engaged along with the physical body and the intellectual body, it creates a complete being. And so they're supporting each other. They're working for each other. And so when our physical body is weak, our spiritual body and our intellect can help strengthen it. Likewise, when we're not thinking clearly, our intellectual body is weak, our physical body and our spiritual body can help develop that. And then likewise, if we have a poor awareness of our spiritual body, it's through the physical body and the intellectual body and processing the Dharma teachings that we're able to open up and stabilize the meditation body, the mind of the Buddha, the spiritual body. So the red is indicates a strong, powerful wisdom and discrimination, a discrimination of what is good, what is bad, of dualistic nature, of understanding, the reality of the temporary phenomena that we live in, which is dualistic. Realizing that, but at the same time, realizing that it is temporary. All that is temporary. So it also has the awareness that there is the absolute nature. So this is the wisdom. This is the absolute wisdom. So this red color is the strength of that, showing the power of that, the strength of that. So then the next stanza, it says, on the crown of the king of clear knowing is the Tathagata melodious ocean of Dharma proclaimed, whose body is pale red in color, and whose both hands are in the mudra of expounding the Dharma. So this is the second Buddha up from the blue Buddha on top of our head. They're standing on top of our head, and he has a pale red color. So the pale red color is indicative of the purity of devotion. So there's a white element to the red. There's the red power of the wisdom, but then there's a white purity associated with that, bringing devotion, symbolizing devotion. And this is the symbolic meaning of the second Buddha here. So it's mixed with wisdom and discriminating wisdom. So these two things. So he is the melodious ocean of Dharma proclaimed. So what that means, melodious ocean. So melodious, an ocean is this huge, vast ocean of melodious teaching that is the Dharma proclaimed. The Dharma proclaimed is the Dharma teachings, the teachings of the Buddha being proclaimed, being said, here it is. And it is a huge ocean. It is a huge melodious ocean. We love to hear it. It's like beautiful music to our ears and to our body. We feel the vibration of it. So this melodious ocean. And the mudra for this is to take your two hands like this. The left hand, palm and thumb, you bring your thumb and your index finger together, and it's the palm is facing your heart. The palm is facing your heart. And then the right hand, you're doing the same thing, but it's facing the left. And you're interlocking the two thumbs and index fingers. So this is indicative. This is the teaching mudra. This is the mudra of teaching. And you will see many Buddhas in their art forms characterized with this mudra, and they are the teachers. So this melodious ocean of Dharma proclaimed is teaching the Dharma, the way the Dharma works, what it's comprised of, and so on like that. So this is what we are learning in 101, these kinds of elements and so on. When we've talked about the 5 poisons, we've talked about the 84,000 emotions, we talked about the 5 antidotes, we talked about the 5 wisdoms, we talked about the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections. So we've already talked about a lot of this, and that's all Dharma. It's all Dharma. Okay. And so devotion, so he's got that pale red color, which is indicative of that devotion for that Buddha to be able to give those teachings to all beings. That Buddha is devoted to that. And we need to be devoted to this process to be able to receive those teachings. So the devotion goes both ways. Okay, so now the next stanza says, on the crown of melodious ocean of Dharma proclaimed is the Tathagata, supreme glory free from sorrow, whose body is light red in color, and whose both hands are in the mudra of meditative equipoise. So melodious ocean of Dharma proclaimed, so he's on the crown, supreme glory free from sorrow. So if you can imagine supreme glory free from sorrow, that is just pure joy, free from sorrow. When we are sitting meditating, if we are really in meditation, then we have overcome all the emotions of the afflicted mind. We've overcome all the confusion of the obscured mind. We've overcome all the confusion of our habitual tendencies. While we are sitting in the cushion in that meditation, we have become just pure Buddha. We have become pure bliss. We have become pure wisdom. So this is like saying supreme glory free from sorrow, because in that state, there is no sorrow. We've overcome all that. All that was in all the afflictive emotions and so on, was in the kleshas. So we've overcome that. So as we sit there in this particular Buddha, he's representing that purity, that supreme glory free from sorrow, pure joy. So his light red color is equal parts of devotion and purity and the wisdom, equal parts of the wisdom, the discriminating wisdom, and the and the devotion. So he is a light red color. So the pale red is very much more pale, and then the light red is more like a pink. Okay. And then his hands are in the mudra of meditation. So your left hand is up like this. Your right hand is laying in the left hand. Your thumbs are touching, and they are 4 inches below your navel. And you pull that in. That is the meditation position. And you keep your back straight. And you pull your shoulders back, and it pulls your hands right into your abdomen. And this is the classic meditation position. So this is this is where the transformation from being an ordinary being into becoming a Buddha takes place, in the meditative mind. And then we stabilize the meditative mind so it never leaves us. So now our ordinary state becomes the meditative state. Now our ordinary state is one of ignorance, is one of hatred, confusion, all the 5 poisons and so on. But when we become enlightened, then our meditative state becomes our ordinary being. And we have the ability to do that. We can attain enlightenment in a single lifetime. We can, at the very least, have moments of clarity, of flashes of what that all means. Okay. So now the next stanza says, on the crown of stainless excellent gold, on the, wait a minute, sorry. Oh, no, I skipped one. On the crown of supreme glory, free from sorrow, and his crown, free from sorrow, is the Tathagata stainless excellent gold, whose body is golden color, and whose both hands are in the mudra of expounding the Dharma. So, on the crown of supreme glory, free from sorrow, who had his hands like this, who was in meditation. Now, on his crown is the Tathagata, the thus gone one, who is stainless excellent gold. What this means, his body is gold. Gold means that it is completely pure, completely enriched. It is the richest thing on earth, in the earth. So he is the richest thing. His body is the richest thing. It is of the gold. And the gold does not tarnish. It does not spoil. It will always come back to being gold. It can't be anything else but gold. It can be in different forms. It can be heated up to be liquid, and it can be solid. So I don't know if it can be a gas, but it can have these different, you can shape it in many different forms and so on like that. And it always comes back. So the stainless excellent gold is the practice. The practice is the gold. What we were talking about in the red bodies of the first three Buddhas, was their wisdom, was the doctrine, was being taught, what the Buddha, the Dharma teaching. And so now in the gold, we're talking about the Tantra. We're talking about the practices of that wisdom, making that wisdom manifest. Two sides of the same hand. One side is wisdom, the other side is compassion or action like that. So they go together. So that's what. So the mudra that he is in is the mudra like this, where you start off with the melodious ocean of Dharma proclaimed like this, but then you open it up and you hold it at the wrists, and your wrists are like 45 degrees angle with each other like this. This is the teaching of the practices, the actual practices, the tantric practices of the wisdom of being the Buddha. So this is the stainless excellent gold. This cannot be tarnished. This cannot be lost. That as we do our practices, it's like putting money in the bank, because this accrues as merit. That the more that we do these practices, the more that we dedicate these practices to the healing of other beings, that it's in the bank for us. It's energy that is being stored. It is restorative healing energy that is being stored up for ourselves, and it's never lost. It's never tarnished. It could get blocked up. We can forget that it's not there. But we need to be able to know that it's there and be able to draw on it when we need to draw on it for the benefit of other beings. So that comes as part of the practice. That's why we do the practice, to learn these elements that I'm talking about now, but then also in the way that they interact with each other. So, and that requires the meditation. That requires the contemplation of thinking about all this, and then the exhaustion of that contemplation till it becomes the experience of that, which is the meditation. So that was stainless excellent gold. So now the next is, on the crown of stainless excellent gold is the Tathagata, king of melodious sound, whose body is golden color. His right hand is in the mudra of supreme giving, and his left is in the meditative equipoise. So now, king of melodious sound. The melodious sound is the mantra. That each of these Buddhas, the medicine Buddha, has a mantra, and we recite the mantra. And it's this melodious sound that is the activity, that is the name of the Buddha. It is the actualization, is the intellectualization, actualization, the vibration of that true nature, of that Buddha. So as we are reciting that, it's indestructible. And again, it is accruing power in the same way that the practice was. This is part of the practice, is the chanting of the name, the recitation of the mantra, and so on. So this is symbolized by his right hand being in the giving mudra. Remember, this was the giving mudra, and this is giving the mantra. This is giving the melodious voice, giving that sound. And we all know how beautiful it is, that if you've had opportunity to listen to some of these recordings, or been in a center where there's been monks and so on, and nuns who have grown up in this, and their melodious voices together, is mesmerizing. It's intoxicating. It's beautiful. We love it. It supports us. So we are developing that melodious voice ourselves. And what the melodious voice is saying is the activity and the name of the Buddha. So that's how we recognize that. His left hand is in the meditative equipoise. So it's 4 inches below the navel and holding the bowl of Dharma elixir. So it's through the meditation that this is taking place. So it's not that his left hand is scratching the back of his head or holding a bunch of flowers or something. He's actually showing that he's engaged in meditation. Meditation is part of this path. So we say meditative equipoise. So equipoise means a balance. This equipoise, you're in equal position, that you're completely balanced. There's no confusion going on. The duality has been transcended. Our dualistic nature has been transcended. Then the next stanza says, on the crown of King of Melodious Sound is the Tathagata, glorious renown of excellent signs, whose body is golden color. His right hand is in the mudra of granting protection, and his left is in the meditative equipoise. So this is glorious renown of excellent signs. So glorious renown of excellent signs. So this is the radiance of the medicine Buddha, the radiance of these Buddhas that is shining forth like the sun. You can't stop that. It is golden color. The sun is like golden color and is pure, and it can't be tarnished. It can't be lost. It can't be transformed. It is a pure element. So we're seeing the Buddha in this glorious renown of excellent signs, this radiance. And this is like a protection. This becomes a protection for beings who come to this. This is a protection that is being offered by the Buddha for beings who are in need of healing. This protection. So his right hand is up like this with his palm outward at the right shoulder, or sometimes you might see it at the heart like this, but it's up like this. It might even be at the knee. You might see that it's at the knee. But in any case, it is the protection mudra that is offering protection to all beings. So that the Dharma, this Dharma elixir, this Dharma teaching, all this Tantra, this practice is the protection. We are protected by the Dharma from further injury and from further illness and like that. And so that we can offer that to other beings. So his body being golden color is untarnishable. And his left hand is in the meditative equipoise. So this is the result of the meditation. This is part of the meditation. This is the realization of the meditation that comes out of this protection for all beings. So these are the 7 Sugatas, the 7 well-gone ones. And in that image on page 5 in the upper right-hand corner is Buddha Shakyamuni. So all this is being manifest through the Nirmanakaya, the emanation body of Buddha Shakyamuni, you see. And he's teaching this. And then on the left side is the Yidam, is Buddha Amitabha. And Buddha Amitabha is the Buddha of discriminating awareness. Discriminating awareness. So we were talking about discriminating wisdom just a few minutes ago. So he is the perfection embodiment of that discriminating awareness. So he is a Yidam. So through that, we can have a better focus on what this means by learning this wisdom. So we'll talk more about that. This is all part of the Tantra process, the engagement of the practices. So now we do the offerings. We make the offerings. So you can see on page 5 at the top is this counter, if you will, the shelf that has 7 bowls on it. So the 7 bowls, the first one on the left is filled with drinking water. The next one to it is filled with washing water. The one next to it is filled with flowers. The one next to that in the middle is incense that is burning. The one next to that is a fire, is flame, is a light. And the one next to that is scented water or perfume. And then the last one on that countertop is food, represents of food. But there is an eighth offering. These are the 7 offerings, but there is an 8th offering that is music. So sometimes you'll see it on altars. If you come into somebody's shrine room, you may see that there's an 8th bowl, and the 8th bowl would have maybe a conch shell or a drum or a bell, something like that, to indicate the music. So in this, it's implied, but nevertheless, it's part of the 8 offerings altogether. So we're making these offerings to all these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that we've been talking about, because they're all in our heart center. And for right now, we can think of them as being guests. And the reason why they're guests is because we're not stable enough for them to stay. So it's like it's going to leave us. They're going to go back to their homes. And until we can make their home our heart center, they will leave us. It's figurative. You understand? So, like that, if we lived in India 200 years ago or 2,000 years ago, whatever, it's been the same thing, and you invited guests to come to your home, they may have lived miles away from you. They may have lived acres away from you. And for them to get to you, to your home, they may have had to walk across unpaved dirt roads or across the fields that are being grown, for their foods and so on, and where they keep their animals and so on. So they've had to make this journey to get to you. So we're thinking, so this comes out of that culture that when a guest comes to your home, the first thing you offer them is something to drink, because they've made this trip and they're all parched. So you offer them something to drink. So that's the washing water or drinking water. And the mudra for that is argam. This is like a pitcher of water that you're pouring for them to have water. Then the next offering is the washing water, because they've come across and they got all this dirt on them and everything. So you offer them washing water so that they can wash their feet, so that they can wash their hands and wash their face, so that they are purifying themselves in order to come into your home, to be welcome there and so on. So that is washing water. So we use this mudra where we're scooping up the water out of the bowl to wash our feet, wash our face, wash our hands. So we're using this, and this is called padyam, the washing water. Then the next one is the bowl of flowers. So we're offering flowers like this. This is the mudra of offering flowers. So it's like the flowers that are blossoming, they open up like that. When you offer flowers to a guest, to someone, you have a smile on your face and they have a smile on their face. So it's an exchange of love. It's an exchange of sharing, of good things, being able to share these beautiful flowers. So it lightens up your heart, it lightens up their heart, brings a smile to our face. So we're offering flowers. Pushpam. This is called pushpam. So then the next one is we're offering incense. So incense is called dupam. So my fingers represent the sticks of incense. And usually this is burned at the doorway, the threshold from going inside your home. In India, this is what they would do. And that threshold, the incense burning at the threshold, would keep all the negativity outside, all the evildoers, all the bad vibes, all the the demons, etc., would be either pacified or would just keep them away because they don't care for that kind of scent that comes from the incense. They don't like that. So it's like a so it's a means of purification, that what comes through the threshold of your house has been purified, is not evil, is not negative like that. So we're offering that. That is dew palm. Then the next one is the light, the candle light. So your thumb is the flame. So whether it's a butter lamp or it's a candle light or it's a flashlight or it's one of those electronic lights, whatever, it's the light that illuminates the darkness. That even during the daytime, you can go inside the house, and although the sun's shining inside, it's going to be a little bit darker than it is outside. So practically, you're making light inside the house, but also it has a symbolic meaning that there is this wisdom light that is inside your house. There is this beautiful wisdom. There is this beautiful compassion, this beautiful bodhicitta that is being represented by this light of the bodhicitta, this light of the bodhisattvas, this light of awakening. So that's what the light represents, and that is symbolized like this. This is the mudra for that, where your thumbs are the flame, and that is called alokam. Alokam is the light. Then the next one is the bowl of scented water. It's hot in India. And when you come, across the fields and everything, not only are you thirsty, not only are you dirty, but you also smell pretty bad. So they use this scented water, this perfume that has maybe some alcohol in it or something, and it evaporates very quickly, and it has a nice aroma, and it has a cooling effect on the body. So we're offering the scented water, the perfume, to be able to cool the body and make it smell better. So our thumb and forefinger, is kind of like representing the bottle of the perfume, and our three fingers here, like this, is radiating the aroma of the scented water that's evaporating off of our body, cooling that. So all this is developing mindfulness. We're putting all these things together. They create a mindfulness for us, that we're putting ourselves in a space that is worthy of meditation. So this is why we do these things, to develop this mindfulness. So now the last of these 7 bowls that you see here has food on it. So that is an item of food. That is a sculptured rice dish or barley dish or something like that. And that's being offered like a plate of food that you would expect like this when your guests, it's time to eat. So you're offering food for them, and that's called nevataya. So we're offering the food, and so that's the offering. And then the last one is shabda. So this is not indicated on that particular picture there, but you'll see it with a bell sometimes. You'll see it with a conch shell. You might see it with a drum. Different instruments. And what this means is, what this is symbolic is, we've got the food, and now we're rejoicing. We're all together. We may be having some songs that we're singing. We may have some dance that we're dancing, but we're rejoicing that we're all together. So we're very happy. It's a happy time. So we're ringing the bells, we're playing the drums, we're blowing the horns and all these things, and doing the activities of dancing and being happy together. So these are the offerings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in our heart center, like a guest who is coming into our home. We want them to stay. We beseech them to stay. And the more that we do this, the more mindful we become of this, the more stable we become in the mindfulness, then the more it stays with us. Any questions or comments about that? Okay. Is this a good explanation? Yeah, okay. Does it answer a few questions? Maybe you had some questions before or not sure about something? Okay. So now we come to the next part, which is page 6, which is the praise. So now we're praising these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all these, medicine Buddhas, the seven Sugatas, all we're praising them all. So we recite this. We say, I praise and prostrate to the medicine Buddha who radiates the light of the Veladora jewel. Veladora jewel is the lapis lazuli, right? Exalted One, your compassion pervades all beings, dispelling the suffering of the lower realms and the sickness of the three poisons by the mere hearing of your name. So it pervades all beings. So this goodness is everywhere, and it's our choice to what we focus on. We may be ignorant of the goodness, and all that we focus on is the difficult stuff. But if we're exposed to, oh, yes, there is good stuff and there is negative stuff, now it's your choice which you want to focus on. So, but it's all there. It pervades everywhere. It doesn't have to be manufactured. It just has to be recognized. So your compassion pervades all beings. So this compassion is the activity of healing. In this case, with medicine Buddha, this, dispelling the suffering of the lower realms. The lower realms are the three lower realms: the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the hell realms. So dispelling all that suffering, and the sickness of the three poisons. The three poisons are the ignorance, the hatred, and the desire. The sickness of the three poisons by the mere hearing of your name. That it's like a mnemonic. Sometimes you can be reminded, oh yes, medicine Buddha. All I gotta hear is medicine Buddha. All I gotta hear is his mantra. All I gotta hear is his Tibetan name, Sangye Menla. That's all I gotta hear. And all of a sudden, everything comes back into focus for me because it had gotten kind of confused. I let myself get sick. I got injured. I wasn't feeling well. I wasn't thinking well. I definitely wasn't meditating well. But then all of a sudden, just by hearing medicine Buddha, oh yes, now I remember. So the sickness of the three poisons by the mere hearing of your name. I confess the evil deeds that I have accumulated from beginningless time. I rejoice in all virtue. So I understand that I have done bad things. I understand that all I see is the negative things because I haven't made myself pure enough to be able to recognize the good things. So I'm confessing that. And that is a huge part of our emotional purification. The mind and the intellectual mind purifying itself through confession, the purification of that. So I rejoice in the virtue. I recognize the virtue and the goodness, and I'm going to rejoice in that. I praise that. And I beseech you to turn the wheel of Dharma of the three yanas and abide until the end of samsara. So I'm beseeching you. Oh, please, please, help me. The wheel of Dharma is the wheel that is going around. Our life is like a wheel that is going around. It's like a spiral, and it gets tighter and tighter. And on this wheel, we experience many things, and we continue to experience those things until we're able to liberate those things. Then when we liberate them, then they're off the wheel. We don't have to worry about them anymore. And then we go to another higher level, and there's other things that need to be liberated. So we work on those until they get liberated. Then we go to the next higher circle, and so on. So this is the wheel of Dharma that is doing that. So it's characterized also by the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, which was the Four Noble Truths, and then the teaching of the middle way, which was the Mahayana, and then there's the teaching of the wisdom, the Abhidharma. Those were the three teachings of the Buddha, the baskets of the Buddhas that we talked about last time. So that's the Dharma of the Yanas, the wheel of the Dharma of the Yanas. And we abide until the end of samsara. So samsara is this ocean of suffering that we've talked about many times, that we're in the midst of this ocean, this sea of confusion where things may be good, but after a time they get contaminated, they get old, they wear down, they decay, and like our body and so on, and become a source of suffering for us. So this samsara. So we're all in this. We cannot control, we cannot get rid of the samsara for anybody else. The only person that we can do anything with samsara for is ourselves. We can help others to recognize samsara, the causes of samsara, and how to overcome it, but they have to do the work themselves. So we are looking to be able to overcome our samsara by helping others to overcome their samsara. So that's a very important point. Until the end of samsara. The end of samsara for others, the end of samsara for ourselves. And the Buddhas are committed. They have taken a vow that they will always be there for all sentient beings to help in this way. So now we come to the next line. It says, the exalted one, Lama, the king of medicine, you possess the glory of the spontaneous establishment of the two benefits. So the exalted one, Lama, the king of medicine, so this is medicine Buddha. This is a way of saying medicine Buddha. And his name in Tibetan is Sangye Menla. So you can see it in some of the text. If it's written in some different forms sometimes, but it's Sangye Menla. Sangye means Buddha. And Menla means the healing, the one who heals. The king of medicine, you possess the glory of the spontaneous establishment of the two benefits. So the spontaneous establishment comes like that. All of a sudden it's there. But before that, it wasn't there. Then all of a sudden you become aware of it. But it was there the whole time, you just didn't recognize it. So there's this spontaneous establishment of these two benefits. The benefits are that we are helping others, and that through the helping of others, we're helping ourselves. Those are the two benefits, helping others, helping ourselves. But it's key to understand that in this tradition, we are helping others before we help ourselves. There is a degree where we do help ourselves. We have to clean ourselves up. We have to make ourselves a proper vehicle and so on like that. But once we get stable in that, once we clean ourselves up to that point, then we start helping other beings. And then it's through those helping other beings that helps us to purify the remainders of things that need to be purified within ourselves, that we can't get to until we give that away, till we overcome our ego, we overcome our selfishness. Because when we're doing it for ourselves, there is that high degree of selfishness. But what we're trying to develop is selflessness. So those higher obscurations, those higher blockages don't get dealt with until we've overcome the selfishness. So then this last line of the praise is, may all sentient beings who are tortured by the sickness of the three poisons have the glory of joy, happiness, and freedom from illness. So all sentient beings, we've talked about many times, who are tortured by the sickness of the three poisons. So the three poisons are the ignorance, the desire, and the hatred. So those are the three basic poisons. May they have the glory of joy, happiness, and freedom from illness. So may they overcome those illnesses through the antidotes And then as a result, may they have the joy and the happiness and that freedom from illness, that liberation from illness. So this is another way of characterizing bodhicitta, that there's loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, that there's this balance, that there's this happiness, there's this joyfulness. So, so that is the actualization of that. So this is the praise, recognizing that. Anybody need a break? Stand up, turn around, get a drink of water or something? Okay, we'll just take a couple minutes, please. Any comments or questions in the meantime?
I'm getting quite a bit out of this, Lance. You know, I've heard a lot of it before, but when you revisit it, sometimes you hear it at a new level, or you know, you hear it with greater experience. So I'm picking up some good things here. Thanks.
You're welcome. Good. Thank you. Yes, it's good for us all. So we're just taking a minute or so to take a stretch break right now.
Okay, thank you.
We're on page 7 if you've got your book handy. Oh, let me see if I can get this. Okay. Okay, is Gavin coming back soon? There he is. Okay, we need Gavin. All right, so now we talk about the recitation of the mantra. So now we've set up our environment. We've visualized the sugatas on the crown of our head, the Buddhas. We visualized their purity. We've made offerings to them. We have praised them. And now we are going to recite the mantra. Excuse me. So we're preparing ourselves for that. So remember, so all these elements are characterized by the 7 sugatas. So we are in the midst of the activity of those seven sugatas in this practice. Okay, so we've gone through those different things. We're getting that. So now we're at the king of melodious sound, the level of king of melodious sound. So this is the mantra. So we need to know what the mantra means. So the mantra, we're engaging our physical body, our lungs, the air, our vocal cords, our mouth, and so on, to be able to enunciate and be able to develop those sounds. So we're using our physical body and we're using our intellectual body by understanding the meaning of the sounds, the understanding of the meaning of the mantra, what that is. So when we become one-pointed mindfulness with the body and the intellect, it's like a key that fits into a lock. And when those two are there, the lock opens up. The lock is like our heart center. And what is released, what is opened up, is our spirituality, our spiritual body. So these two things together, the physical, the intellectual, opens up. When it is pure, when it is one-pointed mindfulness, there's no contamination, then the purity of that opens up the heart center, which is pure by its nature. It can be blocked up, but inside it is pure. It's like gold that has been covered up by mud. The gold is still gold, but you remove the mud and now you can see the gold. But before it was just a muddy lump. Okay, so now we go to the recitation of the mantra. It says, I invoke the commitment of the 8 Sugatas and retinues by the recitation of the mantras. So I'm committing myself. I'm committing to the 8 Sugatas. I am, and their retinues by the recitation of the mantras, that I am going to transform myself into the Buddha through this. And the indication that I am doing that is my utterance of the mantra. Limitless light rays of wisdom and compassion manifest from their bodies and pervade myself and all sentient beings, especially the ones who are the focus of my attention. So we visualize that all those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are in this indestructible diamond that is in our heart center. This is our Buddha true nature. So all of them are there. So so this stanza here says, limitless light rays of wisdom and compassion manifest from their bodies, which is in this diamond, which is within our heart center, is being exchanged with our heart center. It says, from their bodies pervade myself, that it's exchanging, that light is happening within myself and all sentient beings. It's radiating out too to all sentient beings. So all their blessings are coming into our heart center and it's going out to their heart, everybody else's heart center. Especially the ones who are the focus of my attention. So this is where we're very mindful of our family, of our friends, people that we know who are sick or been injured, in hospital, confused, going through emotional problems, whatever. We're cognizant of them, and we can go through our whole family tree and we can think about that and so on. As we do that, we can go through our neighborhood, we can think about our community, we can start thinking about the region in which we live, we can start thinking about the nation in which we live, we can start thinking about the continent in which we live, the other continents that we don't live. And then we can think about those that are halfway around the world, the other continents on the other side of the world, and the sickness that is going on there, the war that is going on there, the disease that is going on, the famine that is going on. All these things we should be aware of. We're going through the process of sending them blessings that we are receiving from those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We now just become a conduit for it, and it's just going out to all these suffering beings. So it says, especially to pervade myself and all sentient beings, especially the ones who are the focus of my attention. So you can have a list. So-and-so is sick, so-and-so is injured. You can make a list and keep it on your tabletop, that when you're doing this practice, to remind you, so you can really spend time thinking about this. This is what you're doing during the mantra recitation. You're saying the mantra recitation, you are running through it, what it means to you in terms of the meaning of each of the syllables, but at the same time, who it's focused to, who you're aiming it to. So then it says, the next sentence says, they purify my mantra recitations, they purify the obscurations of karma, afflictive emotions, sickness, possession, evil deeds, and broken samaya, broken vows, which are all purified. So all these things are included in the power of medicine Buddha to heal sickness, afflictive emotions, possession, evil deeds, broken samaya, broken promises, which are all purified. So we're sending this out. It's up to them to be able to receive these and purify themselves. But it's also up to us to purify ourselves. So that's part of this, the two benefits for others and for ourselves. So we have to visualize this as purifying ourselves. So we can't control what happens with them. We can only give them the blessings, but we can receive the blessings from those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and we can take those blessings and purify ourselves. So it's that awareness, that mindfulness of that we're developing here. So then the next sentence says, in an instant, all achieve the various realizations of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So like I said before, there is a graduated stage that we go through to be able to attain enlightenment. But there are periods where it's like a light switch, where all of a sudden you see something that you didn't see before. It may have taken you a long time to get there, but when that realization comes, it's just like a light switch going on and off. So in that same way, we're saying in an instant, all the various realizations of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So all the work that they have done, all the accumulations that they have been able to obtain and become the embodiment of, all those blessings are being transmitted, and we are all part of that. That is not separate from us. It is there. We have to recognize it. We recognize it through those epiphanies, through those, spontaneous presence of recognizing that clear light that comes just like an instant, like that. It may not stay with us very long. It may go just as quick as it came. But when we realize that it's happened, we say it's possible, and I can get back to it. I can energize my practice, and I can broaden the period of that realization. I can deepen the depth of the understanding of it, and I can make it more and more stable. I can come back to it. It's repeatable all the time. It never goes away. What it is, we're controlling the obscurations that are blocking it up. And then it just shines forth naturally, because that's what it does. In an instant, all achieve the various realizations of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We realize the various realizations of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all their activities, their bodhicitta. It's all here. So now we come to, and we're not going to get through this whole thing. As a matter of fact, maybe this is a good place to stop. I want to do this. I think this is important. I hope you think so too. So next week we'll come back and we'll finish this. But I want to recite the mantra that's on page 9. I want everybody to recite that with me, and then have a short dissolution. So we'll take the time to do that. So here, starting on page 9, it says, in the English, it says, I make my offerings to you, who destroyed the enemy, negative life cycle changes, who has thus gone to the state of enlightenment, like other Buddhas, who perfectly accomplished the quality of the Buddha, the supreme physician who is fully liberated and awakened, the enlightened one, medicine Buddha, Bedoya, the Pure Land, the King of Physicians. So taking this line by line, it says, I make all these offerings to you, which we've explained. You destroyed the enemy, negative life cycle changes. The enemy, negative life cycle changes. In other words, we don't have to make our changes to be negative life cycle changes. We can make them positive, is what that's saying. Who has thus gone to the state of enlightenment like other Buddhas. We made the choice to not do the negativity, but to do the positive, which leads us to the Buddha. The Buddha within ourselves. We are all Buddha. who perfectly accomplish the quality of the Buddha. So all the Buddhas are the same in terms of their enlightenment, their bodhicitta. Their differences are in their activities, but they are all equal in their power. So that is the homage. That's paying homage to all the Buddhas. Then the next one, this next stanza says, the supreme physician who is fully liberated and awakened, the enlightened one, medicine Buddha, Bedoya, pure land of the king of physicians. So this is the mantra of the Buddha, of medicine Buddha. So you could say, I am the supreme physician. I am the one who is fully liberated and awakened. I am the enlightened one, medicine Buddha, Sangye Menla. And Bedoya, the pure land, is I am the king of the physicians, and this is my pure land, Bedoya, the pure land of lapis lazuli radiance. That's another way of saying this, of announcing the mantras are the announcement, the proclamation of the Buddhas saying, this is who I am, and this is what I do. And the more that we do this, the more that we are able to inseparably transform our body, speech, and mind to become their body, speech, and mind. Okay? So we can visualize at the bottom there is the Hung syllable is at our heart, and it represents the manifestation of that indestructible wisdom, that healing power of the Buddha in our heart center. And the mantra is going around it. The mantra garland is going around that Hung syllable. So as we recite this mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. So we're going to do this in the Tibetan. So you look, actually, this is Sanskrit. So, we'll recite Om Namo Bhagavate. So that is the homage. Then the next part is Tathagata Om Beganze Beganze Maha Beganze Beganze Raja Samogate Soha. So Teata means this is it. Om is the enlightened body, speech, and mind. Beganze is the Buddha, the medicine Buddha. Maha, the great medicine Buddha. Beganze, magnificent medicine Buddha. Raja means magnetizing all these beings. Samogate, into the Buddha field of the medicine Buddha, Bedoya, the Pure Land, magnetizing them into the Buddha field. And Soha is, may it be accomplished, so be it. So now we recite this. Teata Om Beganze Maha Beganze Raja Samogate Soha. 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 So now we'll just do a short dissolution on page 10, the last paragraph on page 10. The medicine Buddha melts into light, blue light, and dissolves into me through the crown of my head. I become inseparable from the great embodiment of all the victorious wisdom and compassion. So we visualize that and we do a short meditation, 3-minute meditation. So close your eyes, sit in the straight body position that we've talked about many times. And visualize the dissolution, visualize the Hung syllable, visualize medicine Buddha dissolving into light, blue light dissolving into you through the crown of your head and being at your heart center. And then dissolving into the emptiness, into space, into bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Take a deep breath and hold it. Exhale and hold it. Relax and breathe on your own and open your eyes. And now we do the dedication on page 12. We'll read this together. By this virtue, may I quickly accomplish medicine Buddha. All sentient beings, without exception, may I establish in that state. That's the dedication. Now the aspiration. By the merit of performing all the offerings, praise, recitation, and meditation, may I and all sentient beings have very long, happy lives free from illness. At the time of death, may we see the faces of the Buddhas of the Veladora realm or other pure Buddha fields. In the future, may I and all sentient beings be born in the center of lotuses and Buddha fields, and completing the vast two accumulations, achieve the state of the highest enlightenment. Well, thank you. So we'll continue our discussion on this, our explanation. This is an introduction explanation. It's not an empowerment, but it is an explanation so that being able to do the practice, a peaceful deity practice like this, means more to you because you understand, I hope, a little bit more about each of the features of this practice. This is called a sadhana practice, sadana. And when we recite, we're not going to go over it in any detail, but if you look on your book, and if you go to page 10 and 11, the seven-limb prayer. The seven-limb prayer is the structure on which the sadhana is hung. So it's like a tree, 7 limbs. It's a tree with 7 branches, 7 limbs. So one of them is refuge, one of them is offerings, one of them is confession, one of them is rejoicing, one of them is requesting, one of them is beseeching, and the last one is dedication. 7 limbs. So those 7 limbs is what is the core of the sadhana practice. In other words, the sadhana practice has all those 7 limbs built into it. Sometimes it's a very distinct section in the sadhana for the more elaborate practices. Sometimes it's just a phrase or a word that is symbolic or that is referencing that particular limb. And sometimes it's just simply implied. But nevertheless, it is those 7 limbs are the foundation or the framework or the skeleton of the practices. I'll just point that out to you now. If you want to play a little hide and seek, see if you can find the 7 limbs in the Medicine Buddha practice. Okay.
Is that like Where's Waldo?
Like Where's Waldo? Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So anybody got any questions or comments? Okay, well, I'm sorry we don't have more time, but I do want to be respectful of the time. If anybody wants to talk after the dedication, we can do that. But let's go to our book, please, and go to page 21 and 22, and we will recite the dedication prayer by Lord Jigden Sumgön. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious kind root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana and the innate road of virtue not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Sravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Maras and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts, May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings. Very good. Thank you.
Lance, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you,
Amazing.
Zara.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So we recorded this and I'll put it up on WhatsApp in case